everyone, welcome to another commentary podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today, Eric and I are going to do the unthinkable. We're going
Wanda!
No, you're right, that would be the unthinkable. Today, we're going to talk about Spawn for hours. Today we're going to do a commentary on the pilot for Smallville.
Yeah.
And years and years after recording the first episode of Counting Crypto Freaks, finally doing the pilot for Smallville.
And was it before you did Counting Crypto Freaks? Didn't we discuss doing commentaries for Smallville?
We might have at one point. I had another plan for that, and I'll actually talk about that during the commentary.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're going to watch the first episode of Smallville. One of probably actually the better episodes of the show.
I mean, it's been a while since I've gone back to it, but I tend to think you're right.
I've always liked a lot of things about this reimagining of the origin. Of course, a lot of the really silly, overarching stuff begins here.
Yeah.
But I guess it sets the tone for it. I didn't know how goofy the show was.
I think a lot of good Smallville is
first
tainted
started.
by that.
You think so?
I feel like a lot of good Smallville you go back to isn't that good because you know where that's all leading, and it's leading nowhere.
I thought you were going to say just because the premise was silly in the first place.
Oh no, I don't have a problem with the premise.
Or I mean not the premise, but the setup, like the kind of let's make early Superman kind of a horror show is there from the beginning, and that was always a really weird way to go.
I think it's interesting. I mean, you have to remember it was 2002, 2001, even worse. I mean, Buffy is the biggest teen show at the time.
Yeah, and we are, of course, because it's a high school thing, aiming it at that audience.
And I think Angel had just started too.
Right.
So I mean, I feel like that was the obvious thing to do at that point in time.
So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. If you want to watch it with us, go ahead and get out your DVD or your Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. Make sure you're watching the right episode. Get to the pilot and get to timestamp 0. Press play whenever we say now, and we will not right now. Whenever I say now in the context of it's time to start the thing. And if you want to listen to it as just a podcast, we will do our level best to provide a little bit of context for what we're talking about as we go through. Eric, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Everybody, please press play right now.
Oh, no, I think we're out of sync. I'm just going to keep making that joke every time we do a commentary.
We're in the same room, Eric. Okay, so from the start...
These don't look as good as I remember.
Yeah. From the start, when you know where all this is going, this is immediately silly.
Is it?
It's unfortunate, but it is. Yeah, because the ship can be destroyed by kryptonite.
Oh.
And it's all around it.
Well, it's covered in rocks, ?
In that shot, it is. Here in a little bit, you'll see bright green glowing globs of it.
Okay, so...
Not a small town!
Do you have an issue with this?
Oh, yeah.
The corn capital of the world?
Oh, because it's Kansas! Yeah, I mean, we do have corn here, but you're absolutely right. It should be Nebraska.
Also,
you can't say of the world.
The newspaper he was reading has billionaire
Oliver Queen's parents.
No, it's just I think it's Oliver, isn't it?
I thought it was something about his parents, like presumed dead, and then he's missing, but I forget. We were just looking at it, but I was thinking about other things. I love that, and that's so cool because remember, that is really obscure at this point.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's obscure when they bring him in.
Yeah. Now anybody going back to the show, pretty much anybody that would watch this probably knows something about Arrow.
Yeah.
Or will have at least heard of Oliver Queen, and that seems like a, normal DC reference at this point. But yeah, back then, that blew my mind when I went back to this after knowing something about Green Arrow.
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, here's Lana being set up to be what she's going to be for the rest of the show. A Princess Angel.
Oh, that's great. Yep. She's just going to be...
a Princess Angel
an
wizard?
entitled princess.
Witch?
Yes.
Fairy? Oh, maybe she's a fairy, not an angel.
She's supposed to be a fairy, yeah, but, I don't know if there's any metaphorical significance to that or anything. I guess...
That's how she's going to be treated for the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, sarcastically, that's funny. You're right. But, I think maybe it's supposed to be she has terrible luck.
And
it's this inverse of,
she's drawn to the fantastical, even as a child, which, makes more sense as a child, but...
Yeah, sure.
He should be at that game, right? he seems like a guy that would be at that game.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, it's a high school game, so I don't know.
Small town.
He's got better things to do. He's a farmer. He doesn't have time.
It's true.
He's got other things.
Do we know how long they've been married?
This really small town. I don't know if they ever come out and tell us exactly.
Because they're acting kind of newlyweddy a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, it's 89. They would be younger. I mean, I'm assuming they're supposed to be in their mid-20s, maybe a little bit older.
Well, and they're wonderful. I don't know if I ever said it before, but like, they're kind of my favorite Jonathan. They're the reason I think of them as Jonathan and Martha, not Ma and Pa Kent.
Me too, and this is why. Oh, I should mention that the symbol on his jacket, we are consistent with that. That is, I think, that prep school.
That's what Oliver goes to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they're consistent with that whole thing. I also think that the asthma thing is maybe from some version of Lex Luthor in the comics.
I really don't know.
But I don't know if I'm right about that. Obviously, the red hair is a staple.
Oh, yeah. Well, and something like magically taking away his hair is also a staple of that character.
Yes.
This is just awful.
Just that he's there, or do you mean awful as in just, like, freaky?
As in, like, horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrifying. Just the odds that you would come upon that. And, of course, it's an attempt at a clever reversal. He sees Superman before, or a thing that looks like Superman before he becomes Lex Luthor.
Okay, question. So when they do it to Clark, they do it at night, and the implication is they're going to come get him in the morning? That kid's still there. It's midday.
Yeah, I never thought of that before. What? That's hilarious. These are just the most cruel children.
Oh, they're
These kids
awful.
came out of a Stephen King novel.
Oh, yeah.
They came right out
of
a Stephen King
King novel. I was going to make a joke when he heard the voice in the corn. I was going to make a joke in the corn.
I said this in the Counting Crypto Freaks, but I always feel bad. I cannot help but just laugh out loud when Lana's parents die. That's hilarious.
It's the tick scene.
It is the tick scene.
From the tick pilot.
Well, and I thought that when that pilot dropped, we're talking about the new Amazon pilot, when Arthur's dad dies.
Yep.
And now I just want to walk over to Lana and go, "You got nothing."
What you got there?
What you got
behind your ear? Oh, it's nothing.
What you got in your fairy wand? You got nothing. So, we're going for a really over-the-top origin here. You've got we have to have the ship crash accompanied by a meteor shower, which I think is a cool idea.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool idea. I mean, I don't know that it makes any sense. How far away... I mean, have you ever thought about this? Just how far away is Krypton?
It depends.
But it would have to be in your solar system for this to work. Because those rocks would have to be traveling faster than light if we're in a different solar system.
Superman, the movie, they're a long ways away.
They're really far away.
Because he says, like, our planet... When you hear this, our planet will have been dead for, like, thousands of years.
But what I did love about this when it aired is that it's just so different from anything we've had before.
Turn to corn.
My son is corn. Lex, and then he walks over to a corn stalk. Lex, is that you? Are you corn? But you really gotta give it that, like, it wastes no time.
Is there a thing here where John Glover has to have, like, long, like, luxurious hair so that his son being bald is even more horrifying?
That's what I always thought.
He doesn't have just a normal haircut. His hair's kind of like my hair.
Also, how did his mother doesn't have orange hair? He doesn't have orange hair? I guess it's just a recessive gene?
Yeah, both my mom and my stepfather have dark hair, and my sister's blonde hair.
I mean, it can happen, certainly. And this is the first of People Upside Down, which happens more frequently than you would expect. That's why I count it in Counting Crypto Freaks. This is, of course, very much an homage.
He looks a lot like Tom Welling.
Yeah, he does. This is very much an homage to the first Superman movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Where you have the instead of him being an infant, he's a toddler, or even here he looks more like he's 4 or 5.
Well, and what would have been nice here, it doesn't work with what they do. It would have been nice if he saves them. Like, to me, that's the only reason you put them in peril like that, is for him to save them.
That's a good point.
But you can't do that because his powers don't manifest till puberty.
That's actually not true.
Is it not?
They don't all manifest yet, but they begin to very... The super strength thing seems to be there from almost the beginning.
Okay, well then they should have had him save him.
And they could have done the super strength thing.
Yep.
Like, why not just have him push the truck over?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or pull the door off, so it's easier for them to get out.
Were you as captivated by this opening as I was when you first saw it?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, I just thought it was wonderful. Like I said, I just love that it comes out of the gate swinging the way it does.
Well, and I told you,
and that we don't live in 1989 for the whole episode. Like the origin bit, we get out of the way real quick, and it's I don't know. It's just it's a really exciting way to do it. I mean, it's over the top and preposterous. But
I was telling you the other day,
those meteors weren't green.
I did not watch this show when it first aired. The 2 episodes I saw were some of the worst in the series.
Yeah.
Hey, real soda.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't think this is too product placement-y.
No. If it just said like soda, I'd be taken out.
Now the honeycombs might be. I forget if it's honeycomb or if it's Cheerios. I think it's honeycomb. We get it like right in the center of the. Yeah, there it is. There's the honeycomb box. You'll see it right in the center of the table. There it is. That's maybe a little bit more blatant product placement. It's kind of just right in your face. No, it won't be here in a minute. There it is. Right in the middle of the screen. There's your honeycomb.
Superman eats honeycomb.
Right away, he's trying to try out for the football team. Of course, that's a classic comic book.
And my favorite thing with season 1 of Smallville is that the final game of the season is like 2 weeks into the school year.
That's a good point.
Did you never notice that?
Well, I didn't remember it was the final game of the season.
I mean, I haven't rewatched episodes in a long time.
Are you talking about the homecoming thing?
Yeah, the coach is really pumped for that, and then he lights on fire.
But I don't think it's the final. I think it's because it's homecoming. Like, that's always a big game.
Okay. I don't feel like we talk about football again until season 2.
But I think that's only because he's not allowed to play, so it's just in the background. We never deal with it. And the coach is gone. I mean, obviously, they probably bring in some other coach, but we never... There's no reason to deal with it after that until he tries to play again. You might be right. I just have never thought it. And there's our first walking away angry. I'm going to have a hard time not just counting things, Eric.
But as I was saying, I didn't watch this I didn't watch any of Smallville as it aired until Superman Returns is coming out. And,
oh, my God. And that's 5 seasons in.
Yeah. And I really am like in a Superman mood, and I just start renting Smallville from the library. My mom and I watch it together.
Okay, so this is just straight out of Spider-Man, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, Spider-Man is straight out of this, because that actually happens after this. So just imagine that. Like, we haven't had Spider-Man yet.
You're right.
And remember that the creators of this show write Spider-Man 2.
Well, and one of the big things that...
Okay, now we've doubled in size. It's really not a small town anymore.
One of the big things that's attributed to the success of the show early on, especially this pilot, is 9/11 just happened?
Yes.
So while this comes out post 9/11, I believe it has to have been shot pre 9/11.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so it's very quickly going to start feeling like, of course, a post 9/11 show, but we're right at that transition. So this pilot feels like what a 1999 Smallville pilot would have looked like.
Oh yeah. And it feels a lot like the Buffy pilot.
You're right, yeah. I wonder if it might have been a tinge more serious had it been more
had it gone into production in 2001.
By the fact that 9/11 happened, because Superman is a thing you would want to use to comment on how we feel about that and what to do about it and what real heroism is, and if we can, you know, how much hope we can have for the future after a thing like that.
So, this is his first year of high school, right?
Yeah.
He looks like he's graduating college.
Exactly. And it's more preposterous because he's a freshman. He's a 9th grader.
Yeah, like if he was a senior, if we started senior year of college, this isn't so bad.
Or senior high school, yeah.
And this is something I remember the first time I watched this, because I watched with my mom. She lost it when he gets to school, and she's like, he's a freshman?
Oh, yeah. It's impossible to buy. And that's part of what makes it really hard to not make fun of and to not be at all invested in the relationship dramas in this, because I'm sorry, 9th grade relationships are very often just not that big of a deal. Or at least it was that way when I was in school.
Well, and I think a lot of shows...
By the way, I should mention that I was a year ahead of Clark all through this show. And so a lot of why this show resonated with me so much, and why I was able to take it as seriously as I did, was because I was... I was Clark. Like
I have that with Ultimate Spider-Man.
Like I felt like I was Clark, but I wanted to be Lex.
No, I had that with Ultimate Spider-Man in much the same way. I was gonna say something, and then he just fell. This is really cruel of her, and I don't think she's like that later.
She goes in and out.
It's a Steve book. I'm not going to say the name because it's going to be wrong, and Steve's going to correct me.
Some people pronounce it Nietzsche. Some people pronounce it Nietzsche. Some people pronounce it Mixelplick.
And some people pronounce it
Mixiflaxioxy. Which I don't understand that, but whatever.
I'm sure I've explained on the video somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
We should do the Mixiflaxioxy episode.
I don't want. No, we shouldn't. Well, no, we should do the Lois and Clark one because that's better.
Okay, and then I can explain why I call it Mixiflaxioxy.
Anyway, so we immediately...
None of them look young.
So we're immediately establishing our love triangle here. Whitney Foreman, of course, is a comic book character.
Is he?
Yeah.
I always thought he was a creation of the show.
Nope. No, he's not.
Oh.
Chloe is.
I knew that. Well, and the thing about Chloe that I've always thought and always complained about is they didn't create a new character called Chloe. They made a new character and named her Lana Lang and made Lana Lang Chloe.
That's actually kind of right, yeah. With some Lois Lane. With Chloe. Like, it's...
Well, Lana's a lot like Lois, because Lana is made after Lois in the comics.
But I don't remember her being into journalism.
I think she is.
Is she?
I think so. I haven't read a lot of Superboy.
I have read versions of her, like, later in life, like in present day, where she's like a news anchor or something. So maybe so.
Well, I want to say because she comes from Superboy comics, and he has to have a girlfriend that's exactly like Lois Lane, so I think she's a reporter. I might be wrong. I'm not the biggest.
Here comes our Lex introduction. The reason to watch the show. The reason, of course, that I mean, just the facial expression when he looks around and he's like, "Thanks, Dad." Like, just from moment one when you see him, he is so captivating.
Oh yeah.
He's got so much presence,
and he's already done.
Oh, by the way, thanks for showing us that license plate, because I could not have guessed who that character was.
And he's already done a couple of superhero things. He voices a character in Return of the Joker, and then obviously he's the Flash in Justice League. But I think that's after this.
But yeah, I love the confidence and the arrogance of that character. From moment one, I wanted to be that guy. And like it's so sad because like he's in some ways he's a really cool role model, but you know he's going to turn into Lex Luthor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean because he's arrogant. I just mean like
he's got it together.
He's got it together. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to go against the fate. He wants to be a self-made man. Okay, so or I don't know if you're aware of this. This scene is cut subsequently in TV airings because it is a 50-minute pilot and you only have like 42 minutes.
Okay.
So there are a couple of things that are cut. So when this first aired, this was all here, but then whenever it's whenever it's re-aired,
well, this is cuttable. You can probably get it all just from him looking at the team.
Oh yes.
What I was going to say earlier when you were talking about the most ninth grade relationships.
I actually kind of hate this kind of stuff. You don't need daydreams.
No.
Yeah.
But where you were talking about how most ninth grade relationships aren't serious and aren't important for the rest of your life, I think a lot of shows know that. And they play it like I feel like Buffy knows that.
Yes.
And it's very...
This show does not know that.
Yeah, well, but I think most shows play it up as a this is what it feels like for the characters. It feels really important. It feels like the end of the world. This show doesn't do that.
No. This show...
And that'll be a problem as the show goes on.
Everything
Lana does not leave.
to be a question of if a relationship is fated or not, and that gets nauseating and ridiculous.
Well, and I've always thought the Lana thing was weird because they keep doing that until, like, season 7.
Yes.
And we know he's supposed to end up with Lois Lane.
Kinda 8.
You know how you wake up in the morning, you come downstairs, and your stuff just falls off the back of your truck? Just one.
Right.
The strap breaks, but only one falls off. You know how that happens?
I really like that before the days of texting, Lex is going to crash into Clark because he's messing with his cell phone. Lex, later that's going to be illegal in some states.
Picking up your phone?
Well, texting. I just feel like he would be a guy that once we had texting, he's texting.
Well, it's funny because I was just about to make a joke. I'm like, and that's still legal. Texting is illegal, but answering your phone is still legal.
Can I say that all of this, at least, like, I don't even want to say for the time, this all looks really good.
No, it does. The driving bit looked very 90s. The actual crashing, like that looked like something I would see in Highlander. But the under the wire stuff looked really good.
So this is one of those, kind of ironic reversals that I actually really like. Where Clark saving one of the Lex Luthor, and that would be his first big save, and that this is why they'll be friends. The whole impetus for and then foundation of their relationship, I think, is so interesting.
You know what they don't do that I think they would have done if this show had come out a couple of years earlier in the 90s?
Yeah.
Lex doesn't wear purple all the time, and I feel like if this came out a couple of years earlier in the 90s, he would always be wearing a purple shirt. Because that's what Lex Luthor wears. He wears purple.
That's true. I'm kind of glad we
oh, me too. I'm glad we didn't do that.
I mean, obviously it's black because he's going to be evil.
Although, to be fair, we do that with Clark. Clark is always wearing blue with red overshirts.
But he's a high society guy who's really into high culture and stuff. Black would be his color.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of times in the comics it's white.
Well, and I kind of like that we don't go there
because
either.
He's pretending to be pure.
Right, yeah. I mean, they do that anytime we do the flashes to his being president. They do the white president suit.
I kind of want Martha to come in and put a jacket on him, and like maybe Lana comes in and puts a jacket on him. I mean, he's in so much shock. He needs so more things on his shoulders.
After a while, he's just wearing a coat of many colors. That's pretty funny. And of course, he's got his red cape because he's super. But at least Lex also has that.
Well, he's got the red cape, but then we put a jacket over it because he's still a boy.
Oh. I meant to mention this earlier, and then we can talk about how Clark's a Peeping Tom and the first Lana Stalker. Did you notice that I believe the S's on the Letterman's jackets change? Okay. They're obviously S's because they're doing the Superman S thing.
Well, they become C's, don't they, for the crows?
No. It continues to say S, to stay S all the way through. But it's got kind of a, I don't know if it's exactly a triangle, but it's got kind of a shield around it to be sort of the Superman shield, but not quite be the Superman shield. I believe they take that off of them.
Okay.
And then when we start going to Metropolis, you'll see that all the cops wear the Superman shield over the Metropolis PD, which is just the goofiest thing.
I'm looking at the jacket. That's not what I remember the jacket looking like.
Yeah, they take that. Oh, and it actually is. In fact, you know what it is? It's the Golden Age shield. Mm-hmm. They take that off of it, because that's too on the nose. I mean, that won't stop them later with other things. So,
Clark's a stalker.
Yep.
But he's a smart stalker, because he doesn't leave his telescope pointed at her house.
That's right.
He has to adjust it. He's smart enough to not do that.
The thing I always wonder is if Clark ever actually looks at the stars or the moon. Like, does he like astronomy? I just want this character to have interests and to be a regular kid that likes something. These people are all so generic, and that's my main complaint of these relationships, is that it would be easier to make them sympathetic if I knew anything about them.
All right, can I nitpick here?
Yeah.
She gives him that necklace.
Oh, sure.
I want you to wear this during the game tomorrow.
Which is really stupid. Why would you do that?
You can't wear jewelry in a football game. If he gets hit in the upper area, that's going into him.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you wear that.
They wouldn't let him wear that in the first place. But it's so contrived that she would hand him that.
That guy talking to his girlfriend. I like her.
Yep, that's right. That's a nice shot. Okay, so oh no, it's not this scene. It's later. Never mind. I'll talk about that later.
Is the mask
going to
show up?
This does look like that scene in The Mask.
It does.
It's lit like that too. You're right. So here's our first Crypto-Freak, and he's not really interesting. He's kind of just to set up our formula for Freak of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if you want to make a thematic parallel, he's supposed to be what Clark could be if he wasn't raised right, I guess. Although it's not like we know anything about this guy's
I mean, that's what all
parentage,
of them are.
but that's what all of them are. Yeah. So I mean, it sets that whole motif. But like, Clark is about to have done to him what this guy does, and it's kind of interesting because this Jeremy Creek guy, what he basically wants to turn Clark into by the end of this is Carrie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever thought of that. But it's like, why do you care about these people? They've done nothing but awful things to you. I want to kill them all. You should want that too.
I didn't think of it until you brought it up. Carrie is a huge inspiration for this show.
Huge inspiration, yeah.
At least for the Crypto Freaks. There's a number of characters that in some way draw like the one girl who becomes thin. Like her mom is Carrie's mom.
And then she becomes Lois Lane.
What?
The girl that becomes thin. That's Lois Lane.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
In Man of Steel.
She's great in Man of Steel. Not so good in Smallville.
Oh, I thought she was okay in that. I mean,
I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's a silly. That was another thing that struck me as a very Stephen King kind of thing. This show sometimes
and Stephen King did Thinner.
So that's probably.
I mean, it's a gypsy curse in that,
I didn't even think about that. I mean, I didn't even know that.
Stephen King is a big influence on the show.
Yes.
Which makes sense, small town.
This show sometimes, because it has horror influences, and that's weird because it's a Superman show, but as I think it was before we started recording, but as you've suggested,
I think it was before we started the episode, but I think it was during the recording.
we did actually record that, yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, isn't this... By the way, here's one of Jonathan's first and really good speeches. Jonathan's one of those great speech characters, Mm-hmm. He's like Captain Picard. He's always got good speeches. This show is in some ways like Goosebumps for older kids.
Sure. In the same way that Stephen King books are kind of Goosebumps for older kids.
Well, or I guess
Goosebumps is
for adult,
for
kids, exactly. But I mean, what I mean is, as a TV show, this is like the Goosebumps TV show if it was actually about stuff and had production values, mm-hmm. and where sometimes things made sense. I don't mean it's always like that. First season has a lot of those.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we ease up on that a little bit as we get into the
once we get into the Kryptonian stuff, we kind of drop some of that, yeah. Mm-hmm. But even this season...
This is a great...
Yeah.
Okay, well, kind of.
Okay.
Here's my problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think that machine costs? Because it's not working after he does that. That thing is going to be broken, and that's going to cost thousands of dollars to repair.
Yeah, and... I mean, maybe he's like, I'll just go ask Lex for the money. That's the point I'm making, is that I deserve it, and... I'm kidding. That's not exactly the point he's making.
No.
Eric did not make that joke?
No, I didn't. But
Eric would never make a joke like that on Geekvolution.
No.
He would never go there.
I would never do that.
I really do want to know if he ever uses that telescope for anything but being a peeping Tom. A peeping Tom Welling, as it were.
Tom Welling kind of, at least from the special features I remember, he didn't want to do this show for a long time. They like... It sounds like they really went after him, and they really wanted him for this part.
Because he kind of looks like Superman?
I guess.
I mean...
It wasn't for his acting abilities.
Clearly. I think he looks the part, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
And
I don't think anybody saw Tom Welling on the cover of some magazine and went, well, that's not Superman.
So, of course, as I'm sure a lot of people know, that's going to look nothing like that later. That is like a stand-in prop that they, I think, kind of made at the last minute, and then maybe they're out of budget, maybe they're out of time, and then later Had they not decided yet that they were going to go with comic book Kryptonian symbols? Did they not even know about them yet? Is it possible that somebody brought that to their hey, there actually is a Kryptonian language, and maybe you guys should actually use it? Because that's got, like, a circle with a slash through it, and, like, just some random...
Yeah.
That's not Kryptonian language. So, I was going to mention this earlier. One of the reasons I have such a love-hate relationship with the show is that while so much stuff in this is really convoluted, doesn't make sense, and it's constantly insulting my intelligence, as you said with Jonathan and Martha, there are multiple characters in the show that, for me, are still to this day the definitive versions of these characters, or the best we've ever had on screen. And not just the actors, but the takes on them. I love his parents. I love... And, like, sometimes they get... Certainly, as it goes along, they will get thrown under the bus, and they will be unsympathetic in stupid ways. But I love them. I love their Lex Luthor. Obviously, I love the invention of Lionel Luthor.
So here's the thing that there's no way around in this show, but standardly, I don't like in my Superman origins.
Okay.
I don't like Superman to know about Krypton until after he's Superman. I think he should have made that life decision before that point. He can know he's an alien because he has to know he's an alien because of a spaceship. I tend to like it in Superman Origins where he makes the leap to be Superman and then finds out about Krypton.
I would make the argument that
he's
got wings.
You think he's an angel?
So I would make the argument that this show is sort of more or less doing that. He's just not wearing a costume yet. I mean, when you've got a Clark Kent that's saving people on a weekly basis, he's basically Superboy. He's just not wearing a costume. And obviously, this show is playing with the idea of his his being a teenager, not really having a good grasp on his identity, not knowing really what he wants to be about, but he's kind of pure at heart, and he cares about people intrinsically, and he was raised with traditional values, etc., etc. And we, of course, contrast that with Lex all the time, who doesn't have that, but would like to, and is trying to be his own person. We don't get the Krypton name drop until the latter half of the second season.
Okay, so they keep it for a little while.
And they do keep it for quite a while.
Well, and that's the thing that, like, if you're doing the show, there's no way around. But just personal preference, I like it when he kind of goes through his entire arc and then learns about Krypton.
I've never really thought of that. I guess I don't like that as well.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's funny because I always thought it was kind of weird, and maybe there are a lot of comic versions that do that. I don't know.
Still does that. I'll be interested to see what you think.
Okay. I still... Why do you have to make it public that I haven't read that? No, I'm kidding. I've still never actually sat in and read all of John Byrne. Although, I mean, I know things about it because it comes up all the time. But
okay,
I'll be doing that this week. Anyway,
I have a question because I don't want to be insensitive because I just don't know.
This scene cracks me up. It's so morbid, and they don't know it. Anyway,
well,
sorry.
and it's also kind of a riff on that scene from Mask of the Phantasm, which is where I was going with all of this.
Yes.
Is this a thing that people do? Do people actually out loud talk to their parents' grave? I don't know. I don't know anyone that's lost their parents. I've never lost my parents. But is that a thing that people do, or is that something we've created narratively, fiction-wise?
I don't know. I imagine it could potentially be a chicken and the egg thing where people read it in books or see it in movies and then they decide it's a good idea. I don't know. I imagine it's a thing people do.
I've never seen it in a TV show where it doesn't feel really forced and cringy.
Here's the thing. I feel like it's okay in Mask of the Phantasm even. The issue I have with it here is that he starts telling her what her parents are saying. And that's preposterous.
Yeah.
Like that gets kind of morbid. When he's like, "Oh, what's that, Miss Lane?" Like, no. I don't like that.
Well, like I don't mind it in Mask of the Phantasm when he's talking to, I think it's the picture of his, no, it's his grave. When he's talking to his parents about his vow, and he's like,
it's not just him though; it's also her. She talks to her parents.
But I think it's weird when she does it.
Oh, really?
It's because it's so casual, and maybe that is how you would want to talk to your parents' grave.
And it's also like from years and years ago. And what I liked about it, not to suddenly start reviewing that again, but what I liked about it in Mask of the Phantasm is that it gives us a mirror for Batman where you have this person that sees the death of her parents so differently from him. So I kind of like that they both do it separately.
Well, and I think
it gives you a really cool contrast where she clearly has. Well, she actually hasn't gotten over it, but she looks at it differently.
Well, and I think maybe in cases like this, what bothers me about it,
Yeah,
is, or why it feels so weird to me, is sometimes.
By the way, I've never been to a place with that much dry ice that wasn't for Halloween. I'm just throwing that out there.
I come from Florida. We get fog a lot.
Yeah, but does it rise out from the ground like that? Like,
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm sorry. You're making.
But what I think is weird about her, and when shows and movies and things do it like that, there's a difference to me between if one of your parents died and you're dealing with it that way. It's when it happens when you're a kid and you keep going into adulthood, because then it's not even like the memory of your parents. You've probably constructed like a whole, like, she doesn't really remember her parents.
That's a really good point. So if we have to do all of this melodramatic, meanwhile at Queen Manor, if we
you mean the X Mansion?
Yeah, if we have to do all of this really melodramatic relationship stuff and super typical TV stuff, at least we're front loading it and letting us know that that's the kind of show we're watching.
If he goes down that hall right there, there's a big round room.
There's a big round room. But he too would be able to put out a cigar in his own hand.
Mm-hmm.
And with him, it wouldn't even hurt. I love that. I love Lex throwing a sword at Superman's head the second time he meets him. That's fantastic.
He's lucky he wasn't standing like. I mean, his secret would have been over if he was standing 2 inches to the.
And there's so much of that in the show. He's the luckiest person alive.
Well, to be fair, when you walk in the room, you don't expect swords to be thrown at you.
That's true.
Also, not to be picky,
yeah,
but when you're fencing, you don't usually have a tip. It wouldn't go into.
No, it would not go into the wall. And why is that? Like, this is the Luthor ancestral home. It's an ancient mansion.
Why would you throw it? Well, because he doesn't care.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Oh.
Why would that wall be drywall? Why would it go through the wall? It should bounce right off of it. Those walls would be thicker and not made of that.
Especially since they brought it over brick by brick.
So,
which I've always thought was a really cool idea. Because they say that,
too.
right?
Yes.
They bring it over brick by brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
Interestingly, all the characters that we're talking about as being like great versions of these characters, and maybe even the best of them. I don't know if you have that with Lex like I do, but I have that with Lex. But
I don't really have a definitive Lex in my brain. Like, I have that with a lot of characters.
Okay, but you like theirs, yeah?
Oh yeah,
okay.
I like theirs quite a bit.
They also happen to be the best actors in the show.
Oh yeah. And
that's what elevates Tom Welling's performance. He will sometimes give pretty great reads when I don't think he's that great of an actor, because he's learning in these scenes, and it's sad that the show, as quickly as it does... Yeah, I know. And they sold the show on that. That's in all the trailers.
Oh, is it?
Do You Believe a Man Can Fly? Yeah. That and The Wall of Weird. They sold the show on real hard. The leafy little hamlet. Smallville's a weird place.
Why don't you have that in here?
Well, because this is a Batcave, not Chloe's, office. I'm not running a newspaper. I'm running a YouTube channel. I should have a Wall of Weird.
You should have a Wall of Weird.
What would I put on it?
I don't know.
Like, not real life weird things, right? Like, it'd be like comic book
No, it'd have to be
things.
comic book things. You know what?
We should do this. I don't know where we'll put it.
What would
but
be
that's
fun
a great
is
idea.
if you took... I mean, you have to cut up comics, but if you took, like, anytime there was, like, a page that was, like, a newspaper headline...
Yeah.
That'd be fun. That'd be cool.
It's kind of a neat idea.
Nothing will stand in the way of our friendship.
So from the very beginning, Lex both simultaneously wants to be Clark's best friend because he's got to know how he saved him and what that mystery is, but also because he really does like him and really does wish he could have that life.
Okay, this isn't funny, but I wanted to make this joke. I was waiting for you to finish.
Yeah.
When that kid was wheeled by, I just wanted to be like, I just fell on my keys, guys.
Something else that Jeremy Creek has in common with Clark, although I don't know if they have decided this at this point, is that they both don't age in regular time.
How do you feel about him being the kid in the cornfield? Is that too easy? Is that too pat?
I think so.
I agree. Well, and does Lex even deal with him? Does Lex even know that he, like, that scene's important to the audience, kind of, but I don't think Lex deals with that character, does he? It's been a while since in this pilot.
I mean, he saw him as a kid, but you're right, he doesn't see him now. Wouldn't that be interesting? No, he doesn't ever know about the Crypto Freak, as far as I know, unless he reads it in the newspaper later, but that doesn't factor into this episode.
You would think if you were to set that up with that character, it would pay off for that character.
Well, I'm trying to remember what happens. I guess we'll see here in a second, but he rescues Clark. It is Lex that rescues Clark from the Scarecrow thing, and he takes here's the Wall of Weird. I do like the Wall of Weird as an idea. I mean, maybe it's the obvious Nickelodeon thing to do, but
I like it. I mean, I guess it's kind of Alex Mackey, but her name is Allison Mack.
She's Allison Mack, yeah. So it works.
I never thought of that until this moment.
The deal that I made that joke so many times but I don't think I ever encountered Crypto Freaks. But the deal with
we should reboot Alex Mack
with her with Allison Mack. Should be a lot older now.
I like her. Like of all of the like not great actors, I like her probably the best.
Let me ask you this though: and by the way, multiple Time magazine covers in this show. That's our first one. Then we get the one with Virgil Swan later in
She's
Rosetta.
The girl from the photograph.
She's the girl. He's just making tick rap. I kept thinking Smallville through that thing, just with the flashbacks. We're talking all over the place with Chloe. Isn't it though maybe a little bit of a coincidence? Of course, you have to have a good supporting cast, but it's maybe a little bit of a coincidence that the only person in Smallville that's keeping up with all the weird stuff that's happening and that's not in denial about it and that's writing in a magazine about it is Clark Kent's best friend.
I feel like that's just a setup. Like that,
you kind of have to have
it's
that.
Certainly a coincidence, but
what are you gonna do? You got to have that.
I mean,
but wouldn't it be cool if he gravitated toward her partly because of that,
or the other way, because events keep happening, then she starts doing it. Like it's not she already has. It is weird that he doesn't know until that moment.
Yeah, like you're right,
You think this would be a thing? It'd be like being friends with Mulder, but not realizing that he believes in aliens.
Yeah, and that's like this underground thing that he keeps hidden from the world, the shadowy thing. And something I always complain about, and I have talked about this on Canon Crypto Freaks, is Clark is. I mean, it's a great shot. Like whether you love or hate this, it's a great shot. But
it's too savage. I'm sorry.
With him being strung up as the Scarecrow. Yeah.
No teenagers would do this. I mean,
they would, but I don't feel like they would get away with continually doing it year after year.
It would not be a tradition.
And it's cold, and the thing I can't figure out is,
and why would he put that necklace on her? Like, I know it's supposed to be like rubbing it in, but it's not.
No, it doesn't work. It's so contrived.
So does he come to every year? Does he come to whoever, or did he just get out of a coma?
No, he just got out of a. I guess they play it like. Look, I don't know. Okay. I'm not
because I thought Chloe just had a picture and like, look, he keeps showing up.
Anyway, let me finish the statement I was trying to make earlier. It is. I always complain about this. So. We get our first Crypto Freak, but we know these weird things have been happening all this time before, and now they're going to be involved. Clark and Chloe, etc., are going to be involved with and stopping Crypto Freaks week after week after week.
Who was stopping them before?
Yeah, and also just it's such a
It's
such an obligatory pilot thing. Well, yeah, I mean we know he saw it.
But he doesn't have, like, an interaction with him.
He doesn't have an interaction with him in present day, I don't believe.
No, I mean, Lex just saw him walk away, and that's why he had the flashback.
I gotcha. I didn't even catch that. I thought he just saw the... No, you're right, because he walks up on it.
Hey, man, what's up? I'm just chilling.
But anyway, but I'm just saying, that whole thing's too easy, right? Like, why does all of this have to be so piloty? Like, it has pilotitis a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Lex is conveniently driving by a lot of places.
And that is a thing all the way through. I make fun of that ad nauseum in Rosetta.
It's nice that they left his clothes
because
right
2 isn't much less than 45,001. Music here by Mark Snow, who did all the X-Files music, and of course.
Oh, you know what? X-Files is an influence on the show, too.
Yeah, real hard.
And X-Files would have been just going downhill.
Well, I guess you could say X-Files is Goosebumps for adults.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because this is the year...
Well, X-Files predates Goosebumps show. But yeah.
Yes, good point. But okay, I'm just going to get off that whole
all
idea.
Scary television is Goosebumps for adults. Supernatural,
okay.
Goosebumps for adults.
Okay, so it's a stupid thing I said, and we're moving on. This is the year that the Lone Gunman spinoff comes out, and then gets canceled.
It's also the year it predicts 9/11 before 9/11.
Before it happens, yeah. Unless it was 2000, but I think it was 01. I think it was just before.
Well, because I think it runs from like January to like May, and then doesn't get renewed.
And then 9/11 happens in September, yeah. So this is the thing I always like to ask people. Do you think that this show should have been less of an action-heavy show? Like, is it inherently better if we don't have superpowered stuff every episode and we get away from that formula?
You know, I was going to ask you about that earlier because we were talking about something with that. I don't know,
because I go back and forth on it.
I feel like on one hand it would be less interesting if there wasn't as much superpower stuff. Because the writing is not that strong.
But maybe it would have been otherwise. Like,
if they didn't rely on that.
Yeah, or I mean, honestly, maybe it would just have to be developed by a different team. But I think you could also, of course, make the argument that it's not successful without that. And I hate that, but
and I was talking about Gilmore Girls earlier. Gilmore Girls is very much like this show without fights. I think you could get away with this. If this was a little bit better written and the characters were a little more consistent and there was a little bit more through lines, I think you could get away with doing less superpower stuff. You would never do it with no superpowers.
No, and you wouldn't want to, but what I wish...
Well, I don't mean no, I mean no super fights.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, I just want it to be actually a small town.
Mm-hmm.
This show is much, much harder, and it's crazy, by the way, that I loved this as much as I did when it was on because of this. I think part of it was just the novelty of, oh, cool, I'm watching a popular show that's based on a thing I like that takes place in the state I live, because nothing was ever in Kansas, really. Or very often. Kansas keeps popping up now, but it wasn't as much there. But anyway, and you got to do the Amnesia thing. Well, we don't do that with everybody. We just kill them, much of the time. But anyway, but like, at the same time, one of the things that makes this really hard for me to watch sometimes is it doesn't understand Kansas, even a little bit. It's obnoxious.
Which isn't something that I would...
And now that you're living here in Kansas, you will start seeing it. Oh, trust me. One of the big things, and this happens with other things shot in Vancouver, but it's Vancouver. They use a lot of Canadian actors, and Whitney Fordman says sorry no fewer than 20 times throughout the season. And it's obnoxious. These people with Canadian accents in the middle of the Midwest.
That's the thing that happens in Highlander, too.
Ugh.
Highlander's town is called Seacouver because it's supposed to be Seattle, but it looks like Vancouver, so they called it Seacouver.
So Man of Steel rips this off. He's going to stack the trucks.
Homages.
No, it totally rips it off. And makes it, and the reason I call it rip off is because it then makes it bigger. It's like, oh no, we're not just going to stack vehicles. We're going to take an 18-wheeler and we're going to stick a pole through it. It's totally the same thing.
Well, David Goyer says he's never seen an episode of Smallville. Because when Man of Steel came out and everyone was like, why are you doing a Superman origin after we just had a 10-year Superman origin?
That's what I said.
Because David Goyer says, well, I don't think people are familiar with Superman's origin. They're like, we just did it for 10 years. He goes, well, I didn't watch that show.
Yeah.
It feels like he could have written it, though. That's mean. David Goyer's written things I like.
Yeah, me too. But not lately.
Not lately.
Well, he worked on Constantine. I don't know how much of that he wrote, but...
Yeah, well, I mean...
You got to give him that. That was pretty good.
I think he works better. I mean, obviously, the Dark Knight trilogy. Outside of the Dark Knight trilogy, I think he works better when he goes to more schlocky horror things, like the Blade movies.
So I'm not sure how we're supposed to take Clark doing like getting his comeuppance on a guy like that when he's supposed to turn into Superman. Like he should be above that sort of thing.
Counterpoint.
But then he's a kid, and I get that. But what?
He does it in Superman 2. As Superman.
No, I know, and I never liked that. Yeah.
You know what my favorite thing about that is in the Donner cut?
It doesn't make any sense at
That
all.
guy doesn't remember doing it.
I've talked about that.
I love it so much.
Yeah, and that's clearly a thing Lester shot. Or at least I think it's the thing Lester shot. Maybe Donner did shoot that.
No, according to Donner, he shot it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably why you left it. Because, of course, keep in mind that we would not have had the world going backwards thing twice. Mm-hmm. You have to watch the Donner cut as Superman 1 ends without that.
Yeah. And I never go back to regular Superman 2. I only watch the Donner cut, so...
It just sucks because you can't watch them both together. I do go back and forth. Because they don't watch together. You can't watch Superman 1 in the Donner cut as the two-part epic they were supposed to be, because they've got a double, because they have a double ending. Yeah, you could.
You could probably edit the stuff from the beginning of the Donner cut as the.
I don't know how that movie ends though without.
Well, at the beginning of Donner cut, he just stops the missiles.
Yeah, it's just if you're actually trying to edit that first movie, I don't know what your actual third act is. You would have to edit as one movie.
Yeah.
Superman 2 would have to be part of Superman 1 at that point. Anyway,
so how they wrote it.
So this show. Well, no, I know, but
There's no missiles in this.
I know, but it was always intended to be 2 movies, though.
Yeah.
Now, I guess you could make the argument that you do kind of want the football daydream if you're going to also have that daydream, just because daydream's like a thing that he does, and yeah.
You know, BVS ripped off Superman hallucinates things.
No, it's just a stupid TV thing.
Okay, so...
But this is ridiculous. He's across the way, and he says, Lana, okay, she doesn't have super hearing.
But he has
That's not
voice.
how that works. Yeah, but it's, okay, he can throw it, you see.
Okay.
I was so into this kind of music.
Me too.
And it was because of this show. That song that's playing in Lex's car when he knocks Clark off the bridge, I love that song.
That's not as thematically relevant.
No, especially because the song is called Tonight and it's happening in the middle of the day.
Real quick,
yeah.
I just want to complain about something.
Sure.
That I wanted to bring
Smallville. Go ahead.
That I wanted to bring up earlier.
Absolutely.
It's a standard thing that we like to do with shows like this that I don't like. And Buffy doesn't do it. Buffy's better than that. I hate when you have a character who we're supposed to feel bad for because he's pining after someone that doesn't realize that they exist, but they have someone that is pining after them and they don't realize they exist. It becomes really hard to become sympathetic for Clark pining after Lana when Chloe's right there pining after him, and he treats her exactly the same as Lana treats him.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, he's totally unsympathetic. Well, and that's part of the reason that I'm not a big fan of him stacking the trucks thing at the end, is just they're giving us too many reasons to not like him while simultaneously telling us that he is pure of heart and he's naturally a hero and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I get that he has lessons to learn, and he's supposed to go through a several season long arc that would bring him to become Superman. But those scenes don't play that way; they play as endearing.
He should be more flawed. If they're going to do that, he should be more. But
the show needs to clearly be aware of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's the problem. I'm afraid that if he was more flawed, the show wouldn't know it.
So it's not the worst pilot it could have, but it's not the best either. It's a pretty. I think it's a. I don't know.
There are so many. Yeah, there's so many good ideas in reimagining this character, and it's really.
And a lot of them stick. A lot of them go over to the comics and stick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally see why it was so huge. Mm-hmm. But it's not a great pilot in that it's not, first of all, it's not a really good story, and it's got again a lot of that pilot Ida stuff and a lot of that obligatory just setting up the series stuff that easily could have been more organic, and many of those things could have just been there from before the show starts. And you could how about you just make them kind of another Scooby Gang in the first place, where they're already investigating this stuff.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to do that. The only thing that should be new is Lex.
Yeah. Yeah.
The break, what is the break of the status quo? It's 15 unrelated things that all happen at the same time. The break of status quo should be Lex Luthor comes to Smallville.
Well, and one of the biggest things that has no reason to exist in this pilot other than that's the pilot. Why now showing Clark the ship?
Why now showing Clark the Wall of Weird, like we said earlier?
Yeah, that too.
All that stuff. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's a pilot.
Because it's a pilot. That's
also, how'd she already have that set up? She's the same year as him. This is her first year in high school.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I guess she brought it with her from junior high and never told him about it. Or maybe it was in her house, and now she finally has a room because she gets to be the editor of the journal. And how does she become the editor
on day one of being a freshman?
I mean, I don't think this isn't the first day they go to school, but like they've been in school for at least a little while. But
because homecoming is like episode 3, and that's only a couple of weeks into school, isn't it?
No, a few months. Homecoming is like October.
Yeah, I always think we start school close to October. I feel like we did when I was younger, and then like
no.
older, we did.
Well, school has continued to be put farther back. I mean, when I was this is neither here nor there, and we should quit. But when I was a kid, when I was like in first or second grade, it was like first or second week of September is when you started, and now we've backed it all the way to August.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for listening. And Eric and I are talking about doing some more pilots. We're definitely going to do the Lois and Clark pilot. And if people are really interested in those two things, and we've got the time, we might do even some more pilots. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to do.
The Flash one would be good to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
The original, the 90s show.
We were talking about doing more episodes of Smallville too, potentially down the road. But it just occurred to me, what if we did some pilots?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
It'd be really fun. Everybody, thanks as always for listening. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you again next time. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Bye.
Bye.